Welcome, everybody, to a new Six Series YouTube special brought to you by myself, Casey Jaycox, and my esteemed guest, Mr.
Paul Haury here, hanging out with you to give you the feelings and emotions of things that are happening while you're in the middle of either a sales relationship or a lack of a sales relationship.
We weren't sure what to call this, so we decided to call it Two Dudes in T-shirts, bringing value to you. Joking aside, we're actually going to be talking about a couple important things. So this is, like I mentioned, Six Series YouTube series channel. And if some of you who followed Paul and myself, we did a conversation together about the VALUE acronym, which is vulnerability, authenticity, level-headed, understanding, and empathy. The feedback was beyond positive, kind of blew Paul and I away a little bit, and you guys asked for more. So Paul and I put our heads together, and now we wanted to do a short 15 to 20 minute segment that gives you guys some thoughts or experience from two guys in T-shirts who have been doing this for over 20 years, to hopefully at least allows you to learn from some of the things we've seen. Either we've failed or had a little bit of success, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to give you guys some actionable takeaways when we leave today. So Paul, before we get going, brother, how the hell do you and I meet? Do you remember? And it wasn't online.
We met at the Cantillon Culture event in November. Is that November? I think November of last year.
That's right. I had an amazing mustache too.
Yes. And then we ended up, we followed up just because, well, you were cool. I might be cool. And we met up at a place over in Bellevue to have lunch. And at that point there, it was like, wow, it's just amazing to meet this guy.
And the feeling was mutual. And I knew we would figure out ways to do something together. So you're doing coaching right now, correct? You're doing a lot of heart-based work. What else? What can bring people up to speed on what you're doing right now and the types of companies you're working with?
So I work with organizations that want to turn towards being way more human. Not that they're key difference here. Not that they're just. I think that might be a good idea. They've really gone through a transformation and they want to go that direction. And that could be a CEO, it could be senior leadership where they have an initiative to go forth. But the real key thing is they want to go there because they realize, and COVID-19 did a great job of helping us realize our humanness really does matter when we don't have all the distractions around everything else that take us away from that. When we're stuck here, we're like, oh, I really miss human contact. And then you realize, oh no, I really miss human contact, not just walking around doing a bunch of tasks with my fellow people. And so in that sense, I'm kind of like a belonging coach. I help organizations and people get to their belonging that actually gets them to a better place.
Yeah, I remember when you and I met, I had not heard a lot of people talking about the word belonging, but it's so important. It's so important from a culture perspective, from a team perspective, any team I've been a part of, sports, business. If you feel like you belong, you're in and you're all in. And I think it's so cool that you're doing that and bringing that really a level of common sense that isn't really talked about enough. And when you kind of get people thinking about it differently, it really is driving a lot of value for organizations.
And what's so ironic about it, I mean, we can go back to the most ancient of literature to even more modern stuff, but we've always had this. We're hardwired for this stuff. But for some reason, we decided that process and technology was the answer to making humans more efficient instead of just really bringing us together and getting to better places. And hey, let's just face it. And this will tie directly back into sales. Your ability to go farther than yourself is a requirement for doing anything big. And that requires belonging, because it's the only place where you accept each other and you work with each other in union to pull your hearts, pull your strengths, pull your intellect, and basically then have kind of like a tribal badassness. And if I think of sales from that standpoint, there's the sales that's predatory, which is really drives me absolutely batty. Hey, let me sell you this. And there's the coat with all the watches in it and stuff like that. Well, you might not even notice that I have 12 watches already on my arm. And if you built a relationship beforehand and we created a sense of belonging together, you'd know I don't need one of your watches. But, and then, so it comes down to having each other's backs. And in the sales profession, I mean, it's just make your numbers, make your numbers, make your numbers, as opposed to how can I help this company, this person at this company, uh, go to the next level and everything else.
Solve a problem.
Yeah.
So
And
sell a service.
that's the thing. And boy, I tell you, it might drive me nuts when I get, like, because I'm a coach, hey, I can help you fill your coaching pipeline. Well, sending me this thing right out the gate saying, hey, you don't even know who my clients are and
Right.
who I love to work with, because you really haven't even, found that out, reached out to talk that way. You just threw this thing here. Here's this link. Go here and sign up for my $299 class. And then I'm going to help you turn into a six-figure coach. Well, you don't know if I was a six-figure coach or not. You can really look and find out. So yeah, it's that, that part of it drives me crazy. It is the opposite of the value acronym, for those that actually saw the other one, that we need to have.
Yeah. Well, good segue. So I'll get maybe a little bit about me, and then let's dive in. So I wrote my first book called Win the Relationship, Not the Deal in January. I also started a podcast for dads called the Quarterback Dadcast. It's all relationship based, kind of self-investment work, trying to make us the best version of ourselves. And a couple of the pain points you talked about there are things why I wrote the book. I want people to be more relationship based, more consultative, more value based, more curiosity based, more understanding of less. I can either make 343 phone calls a day, piss off 338 of them, and have 2 really good phone calls and I feel great about myself, and my sales manager's happy, and I won the pizza award because I made 350 calls and everyone's happy, but in the end I pissed off 348 people. That's not good. Right? And so I think sellers, while you're watching, high output is always important. You got to pound the phone. You got to pound the email. You got to network. That's great. But there's a way to do it. There's an art and a science to the job. And why I think this is going to be a fun conversation now with Paul is, now that we're both in coaching, we see that. The same thing Paul just talked about, I'm seeing it too. Like, if there are all these great solutions, these amazing products, and these amazing ways people are going to help me become a better coach, you've never met me. It's like going to the car lot and the guy says, or female says, how can I earn your business today? Well, we've known each other for 3 minutes. Okay, you're not going to earn anything. You're not going to earn my trust. We don't know each other. If you would have called me a year ago and started building a relationship, 100% I would be trusting you. But that's not the case. So let's think about the words we use. So I think today the outcome is going to be, we want people to have that aha moment and that understanding of, as a buyer, Paul, what are things that you can advise salespeople on what they should expect to be coming to the table with if they're going to become value-added relationship-based sellers versus transactional-based watch flinging Casio dudes?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that little programmable watch.
Yeah. Maybe a Swatch guard too.
Yeah,
Worry about that thing too.
To think of it in terms of creating belonging first, because the truth of the matter is, like you said, there 3 minutes isn't enough time to actually belong together. Is trust over time, or heart. I call it heart. Heart plus time equals trust, and that means you have to go in not with giving somebody the answer, but going with I'll give you a different acronym, CEO, to go in with curiosity, empathy, and then optimism.
Love
it. And that's the opposite of judgment, disconnection, and pessimism. And how that can even translate in a sales thing. If somebody comes to me with that, in a nutshell, going against with the judgment all the way to the end there, it's you suck and you need my product. I suck and I need your product doesn't make me have any sense of trust. And you might be triggering on a level of urgency. You might be getting into that I've got the bane of existence with a problem, but it doesn't make the connection so that if I'm going to invest my time in your service or product, that we have a connection that makes it valid.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm a commodity. You're a commodity if you're selling to me at that point. And frankly, rice and beans, I do love rice and beans though.
I thought you were going to say Frankenbeans from something about Mary.
No.
I'm back. I'm focusing.
Hey, it's all fun and games till somebody ends up in a cone, right?
Right.
Well, um, but it's setting that stage, and you get there by being curious, empathetic, and optimistic with somebody. So if a salesperson's coming to me and they actually want to know, like I actually took a LinkedIn connection from somebody who actually said, you know, here, I'm not going to give you a pitch. I do want to know what you're doing. I do like what I've looked at on your site and LinkedIn. And so I was like, all right, that's a person I'm going to connect with, because they're willing to put in some time, make the connection, and show up.
So let me phrase that. So talk about the power of asking great questions from the buyer's perspective. What does that show you if a seller is coming to you prepared with great questions?
Oh, that one that tells me they did that. They did their homework, for one. I mean, that's, if you're going to go out and just reach out to somebody on a cold call, do the effort and find out what you can glean from their presence. And there's not telling people to be stalkers, but that's part of the reality. The company has a set of values. The company has a dream that it's trying to accomplish. I want somebody to actually get that understanding before they're going to come to me, which means find out what matters to the person in as much as you can. I mean, obviously, if you can't find that out, then ask those questions first. You want Bradley Powers? Hey, what are you trying to accomplish? What's the big thing you're trying to make happen?
Yeah.
And then,
well, one thing I learned,
followed up with what's in the way of that.
Yeah.
You
I love that. One thing, I'm glad you said the word what, and they used the word W. So one of the things I learned in my career was from a great mentor. He taught me this thing called TED-based philosophy questions, which is tell me, explain, describe. So when you ask questions in that format, you get them talking more story format, and actually more true relationship happens. And so you talked about curiosity. Curiosity is one of my favorite blessings that I've been given. And sometimes it's random curiosity where my mind goes off in these la lands because I'm really just curious and want to know. But what happens if you do it in an authentic way through your optimism and a positive tone of your voice, it really creates a belonging environment for conversation to randomly happen, which is commonality and rapport, which leads to trust.
Yeah. Well, so, it's that whole thing of, as a buyer, I don't care what you know until I know you care. That's the old, and it's that, I know it's an old Theodore Roosevelt thing. It's actually, I think even before that, it goes all the way into Confucianism. I think there's even a restatement. I should say Teddy's was a restatement of the old Confucianism. And so that's the part that really matters, because, if you come to me with something, even if it's something I desperately need, if I'm always like, what's this person's motive? What's Casey's motive? He just wants to close a sale. And that means that if something goes haywire, I'm going to be out to dry. Now, where I get that real sense is when we start talking about things other than the transaction. And that's where that curiosity, you say it takes you off into an ADD land or whatever. No, that's what's building the heart bridge at that point. And that's what gives you the carryover to actually make it.
Yeah.
Prior to that,
a moment of failure. I'll tell you, just for younger sellers at home, and probably give you a good laugh. My very first meeting back in 2001 at Hall Kenyon, before the company I was with, Kforce, they bought us. I was so excited to go in the sales meeting, and it was a startup back then, and me and my former boss at the time, named Angela Ronica, we went and met with this gentleman, and he actually was in a wheelchair with like wheelchair gloves on, just the sharpest suit you can be. So I was I was young and immature and a little nervous out of the gate. Never met with a person in a wheelchair in a business environment. So it kind of rattled me a little bit. Shouldn't have, but it did. In a very small office. And I had memorized everything I wanted to say. And I went in and I was like, God, I killed that. I got in the car and I said, and I go, Ange, how do you think I do? She's like, well, how did you think you do? How did you think you did? I think, well, I did awesome. I told him everything I want to tell him. I told him everything we can do. I killed it. She's like, how much did he get to talk? I was like, that feeling, the awkwardness. I just maybe went number 2 in my pants feeling. And then I said,
should wear your brown underwear.
I know. That's back when I worked for UPS. What can Brown do for you? And then I was like, well, what did I learn? What questions did I ask? And I'm like, no, and no. I'm like, And so that's the point, sellers at home. Think about, it's not about telling someone how great you are, what you can do. You got to be able to be, be ready to talk about those things, but come prepared to ask questions like Paul's talking about. This is directly from a buyer who's hired many different sellers, many different organizations, many different companies.
Oh my gosh.
The quickest way to go, and if you're bowling right in the gutter, talk more about yourself, right? This is free advice that we're giving you from people who have over 20 years experience doing this, both on the buyer side and the seller side. So I don't know if that story of embarrassment for me, does that resonate? Any nightmare stories for you of bad seller engagements you've had?
Oh my God. I can think of quite a few. A matter of fact, I was a IT director, and we were putting in a Veeam product in place for automated backups. And I remember we did all this stuff. We asked them; they're the experts, and we were dealing with Oracle data. Actually, all the technical stuff really doesn't matter, so I'll skip that. What they spec'd out didn't work, and I was relying upon them. We had been building a relationship, and this one sales guy literally goes, "We can't know that. We told you," and all this stuff. I'm like sitting there talking with the CEO at this point. I'm like going, "Hey, we're trusting and rely upon you. You said you had our back. Right now, we're getting stonewalled, and I'm about to drop you because this is not worth it." If we're in a relationship, customer to vendor, I expect that we're in this for a mutually beneficial situation here. There is nothing beneficial happening anymore. The relationship is breaking. Mm-hmm. And as I said this to this guy, this one sales guy burst out again. And I'm like, I'm about to call the meeting done. And out of the blue, this was months of frustration. Mm-hmm. Out of the blue, the CEO, and it was not out of the blue. The CEO actually goes, "Oh," he goes, and he asked his employee to please stop. And he actually used that language, which was really nice. And that was a good sign.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, if we told the customer we could take care of them, we have to take care of them."
Love it.
So it doesn't matter if we didn't ask the right question. And you said that, and this is what really came to me. It doesn't matter that we didn't ask the right question to know what the load would be on the backup device. We have to fix this product for them so that they can get their backups done, so that their enterprise clients won't get let down in a moment.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't need to hear anything else." That meant that my technology guys and their technology guys could handle it, and I knew the relationship was back on track, because it was derailed by somebody who wasn't willing to keep asking questions.
So for me, a great key takeaway for people home. So in the book I wrote, chapter 5 is all about ego, self-awareness, right? And so that what you just talked about is a salesperson with a massive ego getting in the way. And one of the best pieces of advice I got in my life was my first job out of school. And this gentleman by the name of Doug Arthur told me, you can be right or you can get what you want. And rarely do you get both, right? And so for me, I could role play. By me as that salesperson you were dealing with, I could say, "Paul, you idiot, you asked the wrong question, and now I'm in all this tough spot. There's no way you can help. Do you feel good inside? Maybe 1% to prove that this guy's not doing." But did Paul wake up and say, "Man, I can't wait to not ask the right question. I can't wait"? No, it was a mistake, or whatever. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe just an oversight, whatever it was. But by the leader, whoever spoke up and goes into bat and creates belonging, like Paul talked about, and says, "Hey, whether you forgot or not, who cares? We're going to figure this out together, because I want to work with you in 10 years from now. I'm not concerned about the perfect transaction now. I want to work with you long term." And that's why this whole Maya Angelou, how you make people feel when they leave the room.
Yep.
Quote. Oh, yeah. I think that's such a good story for people at home, specifically sellers or buyers, to be hold that bar high for the companies you're working with, and expect that type of relationship, because those types of people are out there. Don't just settle for the transactional based relationship, because it's not worth it. You're going to be stressed out at work. It's probably going to go with you in the car. It's probably going to be taken home with you. right? Versus the
Oh
one, think
yeah.
about the last time you bought a car and it was like the best easy experience ever. Like I've talked to everybody about that. I bought a Ford recently from Prosser in Washington. It's in Yakima. I would literally drive 2.5 hours to go there because they're unbelievable. Like,
Hmm.
and so like that feeling is such an empowering feeling, not only from sellers to
Oh,
leaders.
and think about the power in that. So like without that, all of the external things are in play. The urgency, the distraction, the uh, commoditization of that maybe service or product that you're looking for.
Yeah.
You're sitting there trying to make it happen. And if it's just about all of those transactional or reactional elements, there is no power. However, if you have that connection, and it's a real connection. I mean, people like to foo-foo about feelings, but no, we function and survived basically the saber-tooth tiger to now. Even the virus, we're surviving that by our actual good feelings of carrying and guiding us.
Yeah.
By having that relationship, now any of these protruding little darts that come in that could actually pull it away, they get grounded. And like you say, you're going to drive 2.5 hours to go see this person for your next car
Yeah.
or truck.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's sales resilience.
Yeah.
And that comes from the relationship. And I'm going to go back to optimism. This is where optimism matters. Being positive and having the the positive outlook is important, but it's the optimism together that as a duo, as a team, that we can overcome these instances and problems and so on that come in our way.
Mm.
I mean, that's a huge game changer for sales. I've got your back, and that is nothing but deep feeling in the time and heart that have gone together.
Yep. So I have you heard of a naive optimist?
Oh yeah, they drive me crazy.
Oh,
I
that's
might
me.
have been guilty myself at times.
If there's optimism, you got to. I just think far end of the spectrum because if I can, positivity is going to exist. I think the takeaway from what Paul just said, sellers, companies at home, you're looking to build relationships with people. The customer wants to have the same relationships you do, but it's just up to us to forge them. That means we ask the right questions. We do our homework. And a lot of this might sound basic to some of you guys watching at home, but it's not commonly practiced. And it's one of those sometimes, for me as a seller with 20 years experience, I needed to hear sometimes the basic fundamental work to get re-drilled back into me because it's easy to get off the tracks. You have a good year, you get complacent, you forget about doing the little things you're talking about. So as we wrap up today, Paul, let's give the listeners at home some key things. And what I heard you say is that CEO, curiosity, empathy, optimism, three massively important traits for a seller that buyers should expect. Making sure sellers are prepared with great value-based questions that are uncover hopefully some pain. Not about don't go in a meeting telling them how great you are and you were the 8th grade band champion and spelling bee champ in 3rd grade. They don't care. They don't, as much as your mom and dad do. And congrats on those awards, by the way. And then the other piece of advice that I got taught that I love sharing with people is you can be right or get what you want. Any other key takeaways that you wanted to capture from this conversation that we can share with their audience at home?
Just by doing those things, what you're doing is you're creating belonging from the start. And that comes before value from the start, because the real value is in the belonging. Because like I say, you're gonna be done and with everything, and you're gonna go back with how you felt at that moment, and that's where you're gonna anchor. And that's why we don't remember the details of certain things, but we will sure remember how we felt.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's your ace in the hole in sales.
Gift. The gift.
Like, and I say that like you said, though, it got lost. And maybe that's why we always have to have this reminder, because we always have this barrage. So I'm going to say belonging from the start, keeping that going.
So power. Yeah. When you have belonging, there's that bond. There's that bond. It's like the old school game of Red Rover, some Paul right over. There's no way you're getting through that arm to arm lock because you've created that belonging. Well, with that, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Two Dudes in T-Shirts Talking Business. And next episode will be coming out soon, and we're going to be talking about the art of listening and the power of empathy. And those two topics not only impact a buyer and a seller, but they're also going to impact us both internally as we work with our colleagues and teammates, and specifically as we're all dealing with the COVID pandemic. What two better things we should be thinking about right now than is the art of listening and being empathetic to everybody who's going through very, very difficult times. With that, Paul, brother, we got 5 more of these left. It's been a blast, and I'm excited for what we hear from our audience. So, call to action: leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought. If there's other topics you'd like us to explore, we'd love to listen to you guys at home. But share with others, but engage. We'd love to hear what you guys thought, and we're going to here to hopefully drive more value for you guys at home.
All right, man. Wonderful to hang. Peace out.